Even men at the top of their game find themselves wanting more from life. Whether it's more meaning, unshakable confidence, a bigger impact, more money, deeper love, a hotter sex life, or a powerful legacy. Find out how good your life can be on this episode of Man Alive. Also, as I've supported men in their love and work lives for 15 years now, many men ask for the right words to say to be more successful, attractive, and desirable. But I found it's not so simple as giving scripts or lines because every man is different. So giving words or scripts would be like giving a tall, thin man a shorter, wider man's pants, or vice versa. The words have to make sense for you and your personality, and there's so much happening beneath the surface that people are responding to. If you're interested in how to become a better lover and leader in your own unique way, go to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz, or you can text ALIVE to 44144. It only takes a couple minutes and you'll start to get an idea of how you can be both more respected and desired. After you fill it out, we can schedule a time to review your quiz and talk about your specific challenges and desires. So again, go to either shanajamescoaching.com/quiz or text ALIVE to 44144. That's ALIVE to 44144. Enjoy this episode of Man Alive. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Man Alive. I am happy to be here today to talk about wealth, and specifically to really start to look at how we block wealth or push it away or ward it off, often without even knowing it. And, the vision today is that in knowing how this happens, you can actually start to call in wealth more consciously and have a relationship with money that actually serves your life and everyone you love. So Emerald Greenforest, welcome, and thank you so much for being here as a Wealthy Life mentor.
Thank you so much for having me, Shana.
Yeah. So let me give you a quick intro before we dive in for those who have not heard of you. As I said, you're a Wealthy Life mentor, and Emerald is one of America's premier experts on creating conscious change and living a wealthy life by design. Working with thousands of entrepreneurs through her 20-plus year career, Emerald knows how to create proactive, catalytic change that creates client breakthroughs in all areas of life. And she's a connector and catalyst for Creative Age Leader, and established an international reputation as an author of 8 books and contributing author to another 15. So, wow, you have a ton to give and to share. And thank you so much today for being here, with all of us, and specifically in the area of wealth.
Yes, I do have a wealth. I have a wealth of wisdom. Thank you.
Yeah. So why don't we start with, why is this so important to you? Why is this so important to you, and how did this come to you?
Yeah, great question. So I started an entrepreneurial journey probably in 2008 in the online space. So I have a background before that in real estate, and I had a spiritual awakening, and then had my own art gallery and healing art center. And then I got into the online space.
Amazing.
And when I got into the online space, one of the things that I saw was the nearly unlimited potential that we have to create our own economy, essentially, our own ecosystem, our own wealthy life. And for me, I just want to clarify that wealth is more than just money.
Yes.
And so I believe that wealth is the sum total of all of the resources that we have available to us, which includes time, our health, our ability to access insight, intuition, and intellect. Energy in the form of money is part of that, obviously. And then, of course, fun with our family, friends, and fellow travelers on the planet. So for me, what emerged was, as I entered into the online space and started serving people all over the world, clients all over the world, I could see at one point, I was actually on a summit, Shana, and I had a download that came through about the 3 different vibrations that are attached to money. One of them is scarcity vibration. One of them is abundance vibration, and one of them is wealth vibration. And all 3 of those vibrations are distinctly different. So then I started to really study in my own life and my own business and my own bank accounts, right?
Yep.
And also with my clients and my colleagues, how we flutter between those frequencies, and ultimately was able to distill that there are 5 distinct ways that we actually ward off wealth, that we block it, that we avoid it, that we push it away.
Yeah. And I'm just curious too, I mean, abundance and wealth consciousness seem like, or the wealth vibration seem like the two that we would want to be in, but can you speak to what the difference is between those two?
Yeah, so I actually like to use water as a metaphor. So scarcity is like water being rained into the desert. It comes in and it instantly disappears. So we all can, understand what scarcity looks like.
Yep.
Abundance is like the ocean. So if you can imagine yourself, Shana, literally dropped in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
Abundance can be exceptionally overwhelming on the one hand. So for example, if you go to the drugstore, I went one time and actually counted, there are 47 different varieties just of Crest toothpaste.
Oh my God.
Just of Crest.
Wow.
Doesn't count all the other brands of toothpaste. So when we are in abundance, it can be overwhelming and people can have a very difficult time making decisions because it's just so much, right?
Yeah.
The other thing about abundance is that I've seen happen. So what happens with abundance is either you tread water in the middle of abundance. You can't deny it. You're like right there, you're in the middle of it, but you're treading water because you can't make any decisions because you're overwhelmed, right? Or you start chasing after the shiny wave. So you chase after one shiny wave, and then you chase after another shiny wave, and you chase after another shiny wave, and ultimately you can end up exhausted chasing after the shiny waves.
Yeah.
The third thing that can happen with abundance is you can have a huge wave of abundance that comes in and literally throws you up on the shores and then recedes, and now you're in scarcity. Right. Again.
Yeah.
So this is the challenge with abundance. We appreciate abundance, but it can create lots of challenges. Whereas wealth is like the Colorado River and the Hoover Dam. So there is flow with wealth. There is movement with wealth. But there is also this reservoir that's created. There is a boundary set around it.
Even with the flow, there's like a stability or a boundary.
Correct. So there's the stability of the flow, and then there's the reservoir. So wealth is all about having boundaries, and it's about not only having boundaries and having a reservoir, but it's about having a reservoir that has movement through it that can be actually captured and diverted to be generative. So the water comes in through Colorado River into the Hoover Dam, into Lake Mead. Hoover Dam captures the energy of the flow and turns it into electricity. Or it captures the flow of the water and turns it into irrigation for the crops that grow in the area.
Yep.
So wealth is a function of flow, boundaries, and generativeness.
Beautiful. Amazing.
From the money point of view. So that's just, from the specifically on the money side of things.
Yeah.
But again, I believe wealth is more than just the money. It's the sum total of all the resources that we have.
Yeah. So what does it look like to have that wealth vibration in other areas besides money?
Well, time, of course, is one of the main things that we can apply this to. So being clear about how you're spending your time. What are you doing? Are you mindlessly scrolling and suddenly find that 5 hours of your life has disappeared? Right? Because there's an abundance of things to look at there, right?
Yeah.
So that's one area, of course. Health. Health is being mindful about what you put in. Like what you put into your body is what creates your experience. Are you gorging on, dollar Big Macs,
Yeah.
Or are you saying, no, I'm not going to put that into my body. No, that's not going in. I'm going to put, lettuce, arugula, and spinach and, kale into my body instead, right? So that I can be vibrant and fully alive. So, yeah. So those are just two examples of specifically where you'd set boundaries in those areas.
Awesome. Thank you for that clarity. Okay. What do you think about getting into those 5 ways that we ward off wealth?
Let's do it.
Okay.
So the first way that I discovered is worry. And I actually, in my spiritual awakening, had a bunch of psychic capacities come on board for me. And so when I'm working with clients, I can actually see, I have visuals of what the energy looks like. And the energy of worry, Shana, the energy of worry looks and actually smells like a dark, gray, musty, old, moldy army blanket.
Wow. You see it in their field?
Correct. And worry often has been transmitted by our parents, very often by our moms. So it can also look like mummy wrappings to me. So it's like, oh, this came from the mother's side of the lineage, and it's literally this worry that's wrapped around the person.
Oh yeah, I can feel the worry that came through my family and through the lineage, and Holocaust survivors, and it goes deep for sure.
Of course it does. And money is repelled by that. Yeah. Wealth is repelled by that. I mean, even I would be, wouldn't you be if somebody walked up to you and was covered with all of that stuff, you'd be like, oh, get away from me. I don't want anything to do with you. Right. Yeah. So worry is the first way that we ward off wealth. Waiting on others. And what this looks like is there's kind of 2 different ways that this happens. One way that it happens is you're so busy taking care of everyone else, waiting on everyone else like a servant, right? Like a enslaved person. You're like just focusing on them.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening here a lot is the health starts to deteriorate because you're not paying attention to yourself at all. The other aspect of waiting on others is waiting for somebody else to come along and suddenly, put the sword on your shoulder and say you're a knight, right? So you're just waiting and waiting and waiting on getting recognized for who you are. You're waiting on an outside force or source to affirm you in some way. Well, wealth is not going to be attracted to that.
Yep.
The third way that you can ward off wealth is through waffling. So waffling is being unable to make a decision. And all decisions include some risk, and all decisions include some loss, and all decisions have the potential for some kind of reward. But if you don't make any decision, if you're just waffling and going back and forth between one or another decision, then again, wealth is going to be repelled by that. So as an example, let's say you're at an event, which maybe someday we'll have events again, right? We're just going to use this as an example, but let's say you're at an event and there's an offer for a mastermind and it's $10,000, and you go to the bathroom because it's break time, and you get a text from your best friend who says, oh my God, the cruise to the Caribbean plus Greece plus the Philippines is on sale today for $10,000. And we've been talking about this for years.
Yeah.
And now you have these 2 choices. Do you get on the cruise ship, or do you invest in your entrepreneurship? Cruise ship, entrepreneurship, cruise ship, entrepreneurship. And you don't make any decision, and both of the ships sail. And you're left standing there, unfulfilled.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's so interesting. I can relate to that one too, the waffling, and the fact that, and when I work with my clients, there's often the sense of like, I would take this action, but it comes with this risk. And like you're saying, like there is always a risk that you can't get around that one.
Yeah. And decision means to cut off. So you have to actively cut off possibilities, and this is also where the boundary setting comes in.
Yes.
You're cutting off when you're making decisions, and you're saying, nope, that's not coming into my kingdom, right? The fourth way that we ward off wealth is whining. And women often whine over wine. Men might be belly aching over beer, right? So what happens when we are whining is we generally are doing it in company with other people.
Yes.
And what happens is now you have enlisted a group to collude with your story of woe.
Yeah. Of woe. I love it. These are great. The W, the worry, the way, the waffling, whining, and woe.
Yeah. And your story of woe then gets energized and becomes the narrative. So if you're going to be with a group of people, rather than, play the crab pot game where if one crab tries to get out of the pot, all the rest of the crabs are pulling that crab back into the pot and everybody ends up being boiled to death.
Yeah.
You've got to be mindful of what you use your words for. Yeah. The word is creative. How do you want to speak your world into being? And if you're whining all the time, you're not going to have a wealthy life. You're just not.
No, and it really impacts, like you're saying, how you even view the world and what you can see. It really creates a lens that you see through.
And when you do it with the group, now you have all of their energy adding to this vision of woe, right? This tale of woe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the final way that we ward off wealth is withdrawal. So what this looks like, and I'll again use the event as an example, or, maybe a consultation, maybe a complimentary consultation that you have with Shayna or somebody else that you hear on her podcast, or me, right? Yeah. Complimentary consultation. And you get all excited about the possibility and you're like, oh my God, this is really what I could create in my life. And you're so excited. And then all of a sudden you pull the energy back. You withdraw the energy. Like all of a sudden fear takes hold and you say, oh, I need to talk to my buddy about this before I can make a decision. So now we're, combining withdrawing and waffling together. Yeah. And probably the whining too. Probably the whining.
All of it.
And all of it, right? Because, and so what happens is the door of potential has been opened.
Yes.
And you have to go through it in order for that potential to be realized.
Yeah.
If you withdraw your energy, then nothing's happening.
Yeah.
You're just, same old. SSDD, same shit, different day.
Right. And I can feel that when that potential opens or when that door opens and there's like a thrill and excitement, and then there's a sense of, okay, what is this really going to take? Or what am I really going to have to give up? Like we were saying before, what am I really going to have to face?
Yeah, your worry monster kicks right in.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got the 5: worrying, waiting for others, waffling, whining, and withdrawal.
Correct.
And ward off wealth. That's a total mouthful. We could do like a tongue twister.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so now that we have a sense of what they are, I imagine for the listener, right, you listening, you can really start to look at your life like, oh, which of these are my go-to, if it's not all of them, because I can imagine for, I can see all of them in myself as well. What now? What do people do once they have this recognition that this is what I'm doing?
Yeah, well, of course, there are 5 ways to welcome wealth instead. Okay. And we are not going to have time to get into all of those today, but I would like to just offer one of them in because it's such a powerful one that, just exercising this one can make an immense conscious difference. I help people to create conscious change in their life. So the first one that I will offer to you is to get into a sense of wonder, like you were when you were a child.
Yes.
exploring the unknown, learning new things, wondering what would happen. I wonder what would happen if I invested to work with Shayna. I wonder what would happen if I decided to say yes to my entrepreneurial dreams. I wonder what would happen if I started speaking my dream to my friends instead of bitching and moaning.
Bitching and whining, yeah.
I wonder what would happen if I stopped waiting on my wife or my brother or my best friend or my boss or my teacher or my dad to recognize me. And I started looking in the mirror and recognizing my own gifts and what I have to offer and the contribution I'm here to make, which may be completely different than what anybody else expects of me.
Yeah.
I wonder what would happen if I peeled away the worry wrappings. If I walked away from worry, would I be able to welcome wealth instead?
I love the shift that happens not only in the mind when we shift to wonder, right? But I can even feel it in my body, even in this moment, the lightness that happens in my body where suddenly I feel uplifted and things seem more possible.
Exactly, because they are.
Yeah.
One of my favorite prayers, Shayna, is never let me lose my sense of awe and wonder.
Yeah.
If you just prayed that every day, you're going to be in pretty good shape. You're going to have a wealthy life.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's funny. I think I've often been, my family often made fun of my sense of wonder, that it was kind of strange or bizarre or naive or whatever. But I have that, sometimes I look out at the world and I'm like, trees and fruit and all these things grow on our planet. And how did we get here? And, and I can see where bringing that, that sense of awe into life actually really does generate more wealth and more potential for it.
Absolutely. And every act can be a prayer. So when you find yourself, worrying or waiting on others or waffling or whining or withdrawing, you can catch yourself and make the prayer. Never let me lose my sense of awe and wonder.
It's beautiful. It also has me think of, for men who don't use the word prayer, right? It doesn't have to be religious, but prayer sometimes rubs people in different ways. And one of the things that you and I both did before we got on the podcast was set an intention.
Correct.
And shifting from the worry or the waffling or the waiting or all that into, okay, what is my intention here? And how do I want to move forward? And, how do I want to create wealth in this situation is powerful.
Absolutely. And, I think the one thing I do want to underscore in this is we started talking about the different vibrations around money.
Yeah.
But frankly, from what I've seen in my own life, working with my clients, seeing in my colleagues, your health, if you don't have your health, you are really in trouble. Yeah. And your time, right? Mm-hmm. The time and the health are two of the most, like if they had to be weighted, yeah. I would weight health as number one and time as number two, but sometimes they intertwine with one another and they're both number one.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, okay, so let's talk a little bit about that, the health piece, because, if you're weighting that as number one, and in this time we're starting to see, right, that if we're not healthy, we can be taken down very quickly. How do you work with health with people?
Well, it's not my specific area of specialization, but I do have a bunch of colleagues that I work with, and everything that I do with my own health, I transmit to the clients that I'm working with. If I'm working with somebody and it's clear to me that they have some, health issues that need to be addressed, then I'm going to recommend that they address those, because anything else that we do is not going to be sustainable, right, if they are not in a state of health. And so, one thing that I highly recommend is ceasing engaging in alcohol consumption, ceasing engaging in any kind of recreational drug use, ceasing in engaging in activities that are health detrimental, health compromise, ceasing eating anything that if you leave it on the floor of your car 5 years from now, it's going to look exactly the same. That's not real food. Hello. If it doesn't deteriorate and disintegrate, it's not real food.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's just shift away from the health-wise, since that's not the area that you tend to focus on. What else is important, before we finish this conversation? What do you want to make sure that people know around pushing away wealth and welcoming it?
Well, one thing that I believe is true is that we all have wisdom. Mm-hmm. And so something that I actually do help people with is I help them convert their wisdom into wealth. And I work with them to design, right? To really design their wealthy life, where we take a look at all of the resources, the time, the health, the intellect and insight and intuition, the money piece, the energy, the fun. We look at all of those aspects and we craft a wealthy life by design plan where each aspect of those resources is attended to and intentionally, consciously changed if necessary. And then from there, if it's clear that that person is called to turn into a messenger themselves, then I can help with that process as well, to really convert their wisdom into wealth by helping them to design offers and get ready to speak and do all of those fun things.
Like a messenger, to share their wisdom with the world and to create wealth in that way.
Correct. But there's two aspects. One aspect is just designing your wealthy life, right? Yeah. And I can work with plenty of people just on that piece, and they can, continue to work in their corner office if that's what they are compelled to do and called to do and feel is part of their wealthy life. And some people may want to transition. They may want to quit the corner office and take their wisdom and turn it into wealth through becoming a speaker and an author and a podcaster, potentially. All of those things. Yeah.
I love it. And maybe just as we're wrapping up, as you talk about a wealthy life by design, I'm imagining that some people listening, it pings something, right? Like, oh yeah, okay, that's possible. And other people, it's like, well, I've got, and I'm going back to all your waiting and waffling and whining, right? I've got this and I've got that and I've got this.
Now they're whining. They're whining. That's whining right there.
And so that's what happens, right? So then you get to start out, you get to point out, oh, so when you hear this potential, suddenly now you're in one of these 5 ways that you ward off wealth.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. And so the work is to convert that to wonder. Okay, I wonder what would happen. So, okay, if you're worried about, if I wanted to do a wealthy life by design, then I might have to quit my job. Well, if that's something you're worried about, let's wonder together. I wonder what you could create to replace or possibly even exponentially expand your income, right? So again, we can just come right back to wonder as the first key to be able to help guide the energy, right? Because you wouldn't be having a conversation with me if there wasn't a potential there.
Right. If there wasn't a seed already of that wonder.
That's already quivering in germination. It's already starting to quiver and germinate. You wouldn't be talking to me. I would not be your gal if you were not already awakening and already quivering with the knowing that something else is right outside of the hard shell that you have encased yourself in, or that you have been encased in by conditioning and social and parental and religious conditioning.
Woo! Yeah, that's another way to really feel the clarity, right, of how much we get encased. The seeds, have this hard shell, so we plant them in the earth, but they're, it's like there's plastic around them that they don't get to grow and germinate. And I can feel where, as you're in wonder, it's breaking down that hard shell.
Absolutely. And, it requires the sun. It requires the radiance. It requires the heat and light of the sun to germinate a seed. And so when you come into the presence of someone who has gone where your potential lies, right? When you're in the presence of someone who holds the codes for where your potential lies, it's automatic. It's literally automatic, that you're going to have that feeling inside you, and also you're going to have the potential, the door open.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for guiding men and everyone who's listening into having more wealth and not being stuck in the things that can drag us down. Where can people find more of you?
Well, I've prepared a wealth readiness quiz, and they can go to quiz.wealthylifementor.com and take that quiz. And if they are inspired, there's also a small investment for my Welcoming Wealth mini course that they can take after they've taken the quiz and gotten the quiz results. So, awesome. And from there are invitations to have a conversation with me if they're feeling the quiver, if they're feeling that vibration, if they're feeling like they're germinating.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I can feel your what I want to say, right? The vibration that you carry. I can feel how it is uplifting, and it has me even see more of what's possible. So thank you for bringing that to the world.
Oh, you are so welcome. I am so grateful for the opportunity, Shana, to be on this platform. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
You're welcome. I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Man Alive. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and it gave you something to consider and explore in your life. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe and write a quick review that helps men like you find us. And again, head over to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz or text the word ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144 to get a sense of how you can become a better lover and leader. You'll start to see how you can be both more respected and desired in your unique and genuine way. If you don't feel as confident or as excited about life or love as you'd like to be, this quiz is a really great starting point and will guide you toward a more passionate love life and a more inspiring and successful career. So again, text ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144 or head over to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz. Join us each week for a new episode of Man Alive.